Every business has a logo, and when it's yours, it matters. GPS is a 30-year local Las Vegas company that produces custom merch, like hats and apparel, drinkware and totes, blankets and bandanas, really any kind of swag you can imagine that features your logo or message. They're experts at finding or creating the right products for the season and the reason that fit your budget and timeline. Check out the GPS website at gpslasvegas.com, where there's a world of products to promote your brand. There are 7 ballot measures this year, 7 state questions, as they're known. Some of them are pretty simple and inconsequential, but some of them would have major impacts on our personal freedoms. So today on CityCast Las Vegas, we're going to explore each of these ballot measures with April Corbin Girnus. She's an editor at the Nevada Current, and we're doing this so you can enter the voting booth as informed as possible. It's Thursday, October 24th. I'm Sarah Lohman, and here's what Las Vegas is talking about. Hey, we're in the middle of our fall membership campaign. Thank you to those of you who have already made the leap to support the show. You're going to get your tote bag soon. If you haven't become a member yet, we've got more information for you later in the show. Okay, April Corbin Girnus, we are going to focus on the statewide questions today because like in Henderson, there's some tax levy stuff. You know, there's different ballots, right? We're going to look at the ones on everybody's ballots. So let's dive into question 1. It's about the Board of Regents. And I'm gonna attempt the language here, and then you're gonna translate for me, okay, April?
All right, got it.
So it says, shall the Nevada Constitution be amended to remove certain provisions governing the Board of Regents of the Nevada System of Higher Education and its administration of the state university and certain federal land grants, and to provide additional legislative oversight of public institutions of higher education through regular independent audits without replacing the current statutory election process or other existing statutory provisions relating to the Board of Regents? That's one sentence, April.
Woo, that it says.
Okay, most people don't even know what the Board of Regents does. So, like, what does a yes or no vote mean here?
Yes. So I'll explain it this way. Where think of this elected official boards and the state boards that run things. So, like, the Board of Regents is the board that oversees the system of higher education. So UNLV, UNR, or community colleges, yada yada. And the same way, like this local school board, the Clark County School Board oversees the Clark County School District, right?
Mm-hmm.
The difference between those two bodies is that the school board does not exist in the Constitution. So the Constitution probably says, and I'd have to look it up, but it probably says something like the legislature can create school boards, or every county will have a school board, or something like pretty generic. But the Board of Regents have a carve out in the Constitution that makes them different from all other sort of entities.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's constitutional language, and you can see it in the full booklet if you read it, that sort of establishes them as as the Board of Regents. And that carve out, that inclusion in the Constitution has historically, for years and decades even, caused problems and conflict between the Board of Regents and state legislators. So there's been this argument in the higher ed world about the Board of Regents seeing themselves as a fourth body of government. Like there's the executive branch, there's the judicial branch, there's the legislative branch, and then there's the Board of Regents, because we are in the Constitution and we are separate. So you can't tell us what to do except that you give us our budget or whatever. But there's been this conflict for ages going back and forth. Then more recently, there's been a lot of pushback on the Board of Regents because of people saying racist things and sexist things and
transphobic things. I remember earlier this year.
They've had a lot of sort of controversies on a sort of minor level that's made people frustrated with them. There have been regents in the past who have no college degree and no college experience, that they're like, who are these people? Why should they be representing higher ed just because they were elected? And so there's been this argument about who the proper board should be or whatever, but in its current form, the legislature can't sort of change that. So what question 1 does is removes those provisions in in the Constitution that include the Board of Regents. So all it does is take the Board of Regents out of the Constitution. It doesn't immediately change anything. There will still be the Board of Regents come November 8th or whatever, and all of that will still exist. But it would sort of open the door to potential changes down the road, which could happen.
That makes a lot of sense. So who is endorsing which side of the vote? Who says vote yes, who says vote no, briefly?
Yeah, so It's kind of torn. The Nevada Faculty Alliance, which is the group that represents all of the teachers within NC, the system of higher education, they have even said they were sort of neutral on the issue when a similar proposal was proposed 4 years ago. And they were neutral. This time they've said, we know people are confused by this. We know it's imperfect. We know that people are uncertain about supporting it because they don't know what it could lead to, because all it does is remove something. It doesn't replace it with anything, right? So there's something, we know that there is some like risk here, and we don't really know what the future holds, but we know, the board of the Faculty Alliance said, but we know that something needs to change, and this is something. So the executive board of the Faculty Alliance has endorsed it. Outside of that, we haven't seen a whole lot of activity on question 1 this year.
Right.
4 years ago, when it was on the ballot, there was a lot more. There was an actual campaign. There was like $1 million that was spent on it in support of it. Generally speaking, almost everybody was on the yes side.
Okay. Interesting.
Like the chambers of commerce were really pushing it. We're talking about like Culinary Union, the Miners Association, former school presidents. There was all sorts of people. There was like a wide berth of support. And the people who were against question 1, the previous version of it, when it was getting more attention, was largely the regents who would be affected by it currently. So it was very divided. I think the failure of it to pass in its prior form 4 years ago was primarily because of the fact that the language is so confusing. And when people are uncertain about something, they tend to default to no, which I think is why it sort of failed fairly narrowly the last time. So this new iteration, the wording is slightly different. It is better than 4 years ago, but it's still complicated, like you said. And also the second part of the question, where it talks about an internal audit, that part of the thing, that establishes an external audit of the system of higher education, like every few years, which is something that's new that people might want to know.
Talking about confusing, let's go on to state question number 2. So this is a language change, amending the Nevada state constitution, revise the description of persons who benefit from institutions that the state is required to foster and support. 2, replace the term institutions with entities. And 3, add entities for the benefit of person with intellectual or development disabilities to the types of entities the state is required to foster and support. What does that mean?
So if you look at the full ballot measure question, basically, it's taking out words like insane, deaf, and dumb, which are not terms that we use anymore. So it's replacing that language with more inclusive first-person language, which is like persons with significant mental illnesses, people who are visually impaired, or persons who are deaf or hard of hearing, because we don't use the term dumb anymore and deaf anymore.
Right.
So this ballot question was one that went through the legislative process. It was proposed by a rural Republican assemblywoman at the time, now a state lawmaker, Robin Titus, after some students brought it to her attention, and she sponsored the bill. It flew through the legislature because, like, it's not controversial. It's just changing language, you know? And so that's how it made its path to there. But it's fairly straightforward. It's just removing language that we don't use anymore.
Great. So you vote yes on that if you want the Constitution not to include slurs anymore.
Yes.
Great. So let's go to number 3.
Oh,
See, some are easier than others. The wordier ones are actually the worst ones. Okay, so question 3, though, I've been getting a lot of mailers about this in the mail on a single day. I got one that told me to vote yes and one that told me to vote no. The deal with question number 3 is that there are 2 things it's asking you to prove. One is to open our primaries. One is to open our primaries, which currently are closed only to people who are registered Democrats or Republicans, no third-party candidates or voters. That's our current primary system. And at the same time, you'll also be voting for ranked choice voting. Since these 2 are paired together, can you briefly explain what would change about our electoral system if question 3 passes?
Yes. So question 3 would affect statewide races, so state legislature all the way to like the governor, basically, and congressional races also. So not the president, but everybody below them to your state legislative race. And so essentially what it would do is that instead of a Democratic primary and a Republican primary and no primary for the nonpartisans, there would be one primary. All of the candidates would show up on the June primary ballot. Mm-hmm. You would vote for your favorite person. The top 5 people, the top 5 candidates in every race would advance to the general election, regardless of party. And then on the general election ballot, you would rank the candidates. You could rank all of them. You could rank just one of them. So you could vote for one person. You could vote for 5 people. And basically saying, I like candidate A best. I like candidate C second. I like candidate D third. And then I don't know the other 2, so I'm going to leave them off. So you can sort of leave that.
This finally makes sense to me why they're paired in the same ballot measure, because I was not understanding that because
Yes.
they seem to be disconnected. But both of these essentially give opportunity to more third-party candidates or maybe more people within the major parties who aren't receiving as much funding as the party-backed voter. Is that a good assessment?
Yes. So right now, about a third of the state is registered nonpartisan, which means they can't participate in any of the primaries unless they decide to register just for temporarily to register in a party and then vote for that, which a lot of people don't want to do for a variety of reasons, right? Because of I don't like the party and I don't want to be affiliated with them, to a very practical sense of I would like to vote for a Republican in this primary, but a Democrat in that primary. So you wouldn't be able to choose, right? So that is why a lot of the focus has been on that open primary, because it's sort of seen as a very egregious problem within the voting system.
Right.
But it all works together, where everybody gets to participate in the primary and then also in the general. And the idea also is that right now, and I cover state legislative for years now, so there are a lot of our state legislative races that are decided in the primary. We have a lot of districts, assembly and state senate districts, that lean so heavily red or so heavily blue that there's basically no real chance of the minority party being elected during the general election. In those cases, the voters who are in the minority party, so if you are living in a deep blue East Las Vegas neighborhood, but you're a Republican, you don't get to vote for your assembly person. Even though realistically you understand that the Democrat is going to win on the general election, you don't get to weigh in on who that Democratic candidate is, because ultimately it's going to be decided during the primary. So this opens it up, and that's what the proponents of question 3 are saying, is change the system so that everybody can participate in every stages. And we also know that general election turnout is much higher than primary turnout. So again, it's getting more people engaged in that process.
Can you tell me briefly where Republicans or Democrats are falling on support or opposition to question 3?
Yeah, so the major political parties dislike it. So the official state Republican Party is super opposed to it. The Democrats are super opposed to it. Both of them have sent out mailers and emails and stuff to people. The establishment groups are all against it, basically. So most of the people, and the argument there being that they have a vested interest in the current system. The current system has worked for them. They know how to win in the current system. And reshaping the whole thing would shake things up to a degree that they're uncomfortable with. They make other arguments for that, and I'm sure that by just saying what I said, I'll get some angry emails. But ultimately, I think that is probably true. There is some argument to be made that the ranking part of the ranked choice voting component of question 3 will be confusing to people, and they may not understand it and know it. That's an argument that some people are making against it. But largely, establishment groups are against it. But everyday voters, everyday people have been for it because they passed this 2 years ago. But we'll see, because that may change.
Hi, David Plotz here. I'm the CEO of CityCast, and I want to talk to you about becoming a member of your local CityCast. By now, you've probably heard the team behind your local podcast talk about why you should become a member. But I want to tell you why I hope you'll consider becoming a member. We started CityCast because we believe cities are amazing and that they're at their best when they're full of passionate people who know what's going on and are actually engaged in them. But it's pretty hard to know what's going on in your city and how to be part of it and how to change it. That's why we bring you daily local podcasts and newsletters made by locals for locals that are informative and joyful and funny and completely unique to your city. But it takes a ton of effort and your support to keep us going. If this show has helped make you a better resident of your city, first of all, that is great. And second of all, please help make sure we can keep on making it. Become a member of your local CityCast at membership.citycast.fm. That's membership.citycast.fm. And thank you. Everyone on our team will see and appreciate your support.
This episode is brought to you by Financial Times. When it comes to voicing or acting on our opinions, why are some people more confident than others? With the Financial Times, you form your own opinions with conviction based on unbiased and trusted reporting. FT journalists tackle global issues with an impartial and rigorous mindset, providing the facts and analysis that you need to make up your own mind. Make up your own mind with Financial Times. Visit ft.com/the journal to read free articles and subscribe.
Hey, Las Vegas. We've had such an incredible showing of support during our fall campaign, and today we're looking for another push to keep the momentum going. Okay, if you've been hearing our messages and thought to yourself, I'll become a member later, do it now. Not only will you get our members-only tote bag, only available this week, but you'll be supporting the people who make this show happen every day. You've been with us through the deep dives into city politics, stories about your favorite local spots, and those quirky, unexpected conversations that make Las Vegas the amazing place it is. We've covered so much, from shrimp cocktail at Slots of Fun to the dolphins at the Mirage, and we absolutely love bringing you all of it. But here's the deal. We can't do it without you. Becoming a member is easy. It's like paying for one fancy latte a month, but with way more community impact. All you've got to do is hit that link in the show notes or head over to our website to become a CityCast Las Vegas member. Every member helps keep our team of local journalists doing what they love, bringing you the stories that matter to Las Vegans. And if you're already a member, hey, thank you. We couldn't do this without you, seriously. We're so grateful to have you as a part of our community. All right, Las Vegas, that's my pitch. Let's keep her going. Okay, so question number 4. This one shocked me, April, because question number 4 is about slavery, girl. Like, I thought...
2024.
What is happening? So basically it says, should the Nevada Constitution be amended? This actually, not basically, this is what it says. Should the Nevada Constitution be amended to remove language authorizing the use of slavery and involuntary servitude as criminal punishment? April Corbin Girnus, I thought we were battle-born. I thought we came in as a free state in frickin' 1860 whatever. What is happening?
I don't know the history of how that particular language got in there, given when we became a state and all of that. Maybe,
right.
But the idea is to remove that language and to replace it with language that says neither slavery nor involuntary servitude shall ever be tolerated in this state. So they're sort of making a reversal.
Great. Good. I mean, this is easy, but, there has been an amazing documentary comparing modern incarceration to enslavement. So is this language affecting contemporary incarceration, or is this just an update to an obsolete passage of the Constitution?
I think the more immediate answer is that it's just updating the language of the Constitution. There is a larger, broader argument to be made that putting the new language in about how it will not be tolerated could lead to potential shifts that you're talking about. That if we decide to include prison labor, sub-minimum prison wages, as involuntary servitude, that this essentially would help that cause. But it's not immediate, but that is a possibility. That is one interpretation that it could lead to.
Okay. Question 5, also pretty straightforward. Question 5 wants to know if we should remove the sale tax on diapers.
That's it, basically. Yeah, a few years ago, Nevada voters exempted period products,
right?
And
menstruation,
other sort of hygiene. Hygiene. There's the period tax bill, if you remember that.
Yeah.
Kind of in the same line of that, of saying like, hey, these products are medically necessary for giant portions of the population, and we should exempt them. So the actual language exempts it for like 25 years. I don't know why they set that rather than sort of indefinitely, but it's 25 years, and it would remove the sales tax from that. It's pretty straightforward. There's no opposition to this. Like the business communities, the Vegas Chamber and people like that have all endorsed this.
So question number 6 is to make sure that individuals' right to abortion is considered a fundamental right without interference by state or local governments. It's basically saying, would we like abortion protected in the Nevada Constitution? Now, April, Nevada already had some unique protections for abortion, correct?
Correct. Yes. So the right to an abortion is protected in Nevada, but it's protected through state law. Mm-hmm. In 1990, voters in a referendum passed the abortion rights as a statutory. They put and this is great foresight to the people in 1990, they put in a provision in that ballot question that said you can't change this law without taking it to the people. So in that sense, it's pretty protected against meddling were there be a huge red wave in the state.
That's my home state. That's my home state. This is a home state that treats sex workers like people, mostly, more so than other states. Rising tide lifts all boats. That's what I'm talking about, Nevada. That is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Do you think this is going to pass, April?
I do think it's going to pass just because I think abortion is more accepted now than it was in 1990 when voters first did that. And I think the culture and conversation around that, especially here in the state of Nevada, has been positive towards that.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
think
it's passed everywhere it's gone to ballot.
Correct.
Every state.
The voters have sort of unanimously sided on protecting abortion and not further restricting it in states. So it's pretty expected. I mean, I asked that question to the people behind the ballot measure, and she said, we're never going to take anything for granted in in a post-Roe world,
right.
But we're confident in its chances. And also it sets the stage for larger conversations.
Famous question, April. Can you think of any laws that impact, let's not just say men's medical care, let's say people with penises specifically? Any laws that impact people with penises only and specifically?
No.
No. No is the answer.
Yeah.
All right. Here comes our last one. Oh, God, this is the thickest of them all, April. Okay, so question number 7. Should the Nevada Constitution be amended to require voters to either present photo identification to verify their identity when voting in person, or to provide certain personal information to verify their identity when voting by mail ballot? What does that mean, April?
All right. So currently, if you're unaware or you forgot, you do not need to show proof of ID when going to vote here in Nevada, unless you're a first-time voter. Well, that's with that caveat. But you don't need it. All you have to do is go there, you give your signature, they verify your identity through your signature, and you can go
You're in
vote.
the log.
You're in the log, yeah.
If you're a registered voter, yeah.
Yes. What this ballot measure is proposing is that Nevada establish a photo ID requirement, which means that you would need to show a government-issued photo ID if trying to vote in person at a voting center on election day or in early voting. And because now we have universal mail ballots in Nevada, it would also require people using vote by mail to include the last 4 digits of your driver's license or your social security number or a voter ID number that you would get when you register to vote. You would have to print that on your envelope when sending it off.
Has Nevada had incidents of voter fraud that would make these extra precautions make sense?
There's no evidence of mass voter fraud, and there's even less evidence of people pretending to be other people to go and vote.
Okay.
I think one of maybe the most famous cases in recent memory that was put out after the sort of like voter fraud misinformation campaign after the last election was a Republican who said that his dead wife's ballot had been submitted, and then later it was revealed that he had filled it out himself. So if you look at that, which is a much more common nationally type of voter fraud that happens, in that case, that man would probably have access to the last 4 digits of his wife's stuff or whatever.
He still would have been able to fraudulently vote even under this new law.
Yeah, and you know what I mean? So, and the signature or whatever. So like that's much more common.
So could this law make it more difficult for certain communities within Nevada to vote?
That is what voting rights activists who are against Question 7 are saying. They say that there are significant percentages of the population who don't have a photo ID and would not be able to show that. And the language of this ballot question doesn't allow for sort of a backup. There are other states with ID requirements where if you don't have a photo ID, you can sign an affidavit saying, hey, I know I don't have one, but I am who I say I am, and I understand this. There are places that will accept a utility bill that you can show that has your name and address. There are other sort of ways that people can get around it. Or this version that is being proposed in Question 7 does not have that. So people do think that it would affect people who don't have the means to have a government ID, which the numbers on how many people that would affect vary depending on who you talk to, but they certainly are there. And more broadly, if you lose your wallet 3 days before the election, you wouldn't be able to vote because unless you had another form that was accepted, but a lot of people don't have multiple forms. So there's
Right.
also that. And then
Or
there
even
are a lot of
necessarily a bill in this day and age with your
Yeah, but-
address on it.
well, they wouldn't have that. They wouldn't accept that anyway. Is the
Oh,
thing.
right. Okay, so we don't have that backup.
Yeah, so there's no backup.
I mean, some people say we ask for IDs to buy alcohol, cigarettes, and weed, but I think it was either you or Jacob Solis, one of our other contributors, that said that voting is a fundamental right. It's not alcohol. And so, it's an apples and oranges comparison. But I wanted to present you with a personal scenario because, as you know, I'm going through my own personal housing crisis. And there's a chance, a small chance, but a chance that I will have to move between now and the election, which means that my driver's license will have my incorrect address on it. Mm-hmm. Could I vote under this new law?
Yes, you're supposed to be able to. Yes.
Ooh,
and I say that
to be able to.
Yes, it is a photo ID requirement, which means that they are supposed to be looking for your photo and your face and confirming that. The actual language of the proposed amendment says you can have a state-issued driver's license. You can also have an out-of-state driver's license, meaning, hey, you moved here from California and you haven't made it to the DMV yet, but you live here, you can still use that. That said, there are voting advocates who are concerned that people who are in that scenario, which is very common, or people who have an out-of-state driver's license because they are putting off registering their car in the state of Nevada because our taxes are higher at the DMV.
Yes, they are.
That those people will assume that they can't vote and that they may have a chilling effect in which they will sort of self-select and go, I don't have that. I'm not going to be able to vote. There's also the chance of election workers who, God bless them, they are doing the Lord's work out there running our elections, but they are not without fault, and they may not understand the law, and you may have just a confused person here or there saying, hey, this doesn't match, and giving them grief. There is concern that it will have a chilling effect, even if it is unintended and it's not supposed to happen. It can happen. It does open that door to the potential of it happening.
April, this has made me feel I'm going to go pre-fill my ballot because I want to vote in person this year. But I feel much more informed and prepared than I have up until this point. I was feeling very overwhelmed. So thank you so much for your really thoughtful responses and the depth of your knowledge.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And a quick reminder, our fall membership campaign is underway. Become a CityCast Las Vegas member now, and not only will you get all those good feelings and great perks, but if you join during the campaign, you'll also receive an exclusive CityCast Las Vegas tote bag. Just head to membership.citycast.fm right now to join. If you're already a member, thank you. We couldn't do this work without you. And that's all for today here on CityCast Las Vegas. Hey, if you enjoyed this show, you should send it to a friend. We all want to be the most informed voters we can be so we can make the decisions that, align with our beliefs. You know what? And while you're at it, if you got the time, rate our show, leave us a review, subscribe to our morning newsletter, and we'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Take care.